Hello everyone and welcome to an all-new Geek World Order video. Randy here, and today, this is going to be one of those kind of rambling videos where I just talk about things, but I did want to talk today because as this video is going up today on July 24th, it is the 16th anniversary of Geek World Order. Now, I know you'll probably think, hey, this YouTube hasn't really been around. Well, technically it has. I think I've had this channel since the beginning. I pretty much rarely posted videos in the early days. I didn't do any of the regular content until pretty consistently until about 2020 was really when I started doing more content and more videos. And as we got into like especially 22 and 23, that's when we really hit the it started as the one video per week, and now we're doing two really consistently, which I think is awesome. But man, 16 years. And I want to talk about some of the early history of the site, because this channel, like I said, didn't really start out with the site. It was there. I was using just a YouTube account that I logged into to farm content, find things, videos I could share, have some posts go up on the site. But as a regular content platform, didn't really hit until 2020. But the early days of the site was pretty much the website, geekworldorder.com, which technically started out as geekworldordersite.com, and that took me a couple years before I actually got the geekworldorder.com, because the domain had pretty much been parked. I don't know if someone maybe had an idea to do it, but they never did, and eventually the URL got let go, and I've had it ever since. But the original site, man, it was kind of a thing. I think I've been wanting to get into the kind of the geek scene for a while, have something lasting, have something that would be kind of a thing. Of course, the news websites were there, and I kind of wanted to do my own thing. And I really didn't know how to do it. Like, I was still looking for the content, the hook, the thing. And it really wasn't until the summer of 2010. And this was probably late, I would say, it was either late June or early July. I think it was early July, because I know once I had the idea and really got it, that's when I found the WordPress and learned that, and we're still using that platform 16 years later. But the overall site, where we really got the inspiration, I think that's where this video is going to talk today, is the original origins of the site, of Geek World Order, because I don't really think I've talked about it a lot I may have mentioned it briefly in other videos, but I don't think I ever did a dedicated vlog telling the story of the website. So, and I know a lot of it goes to the conversations I had at Nerdapalooza 2010. That was kind of the first time I'd ever seen, and I'd learned a little bit about the geek music scene, nerdcore music, the rapping stuff, like that. I can give or take on a lot of that. And there was a lot of stuff in the early days of the site where I was covering a lot of nerd music, doing music reviews. A lot of the early photography was in music shows, stuff like the Nerdapalooza, the Orlando Nerd Fest, individual shows. There was definitely more stuff on the pop indie, the pop and rock scene, stuff like Your Mark with a C, Sci-Fried, Random Encounter. There was a lot of that. So Nerdapalooza was actually the first music festival I ever went to. I know, right? But there was just this vibe where everyone was coming together. And it didn't really matter what your musical tastes were, whether it was more towards the rap or the rock. There was just a vibe. It was just this big nerdy party. And I had been in the convention scene for 5 years at this point, because my first convention was MegaCon in 2005. So I've only been going to conventions in general for a couple of years. 5 years at this point. And I was getting a little bit of a lay of the land. Obviously, there was just a lot of things that happened, and there were experiences with MegaCon and some of the anime cons. But Nerdapalooza was just this big nerdy party. Everyone was just there in this hotel for like 2 days, and it was one of the most incredible things I'd ever seen. And I was already putting some ideas together, and I don't even remember. And I think I was floating some names around. Of course, Geek World Order is kind of a play on the NWO, the New World Order. And I think there was just something about the name. I may have floated around another name or two that I just honestly don't remember. But I think that's the one that stuck. And for me, I gotta give a lot of the credit, and really kind of putting the idea in my mind, was Dr. Vern of Sci-Fried. He's the guy that I had a lot of talks with that point, and really getting some of his perspective. He's got a few years on me. He'd been in the party scene and some other things, and that's where a lot of it came together. Our talks really solidified a lot of things for me in understanding the convention culture, and I just wanted to be a part of it. And that's how I thought I could be a part of it, was having this website and sharing my experiences through things that I write, or photography. Those were the big things. So I kind of modeled it after the news sites, and of course, I may post trailers or a piece of news here and there, but if I post the news nowadays, which I don't do that often anymore, I really focus more towards the content side. Stuff that's on YouTube, more immediate reactions through the convention vlogs, things like that. So obviously the content has grown and evolved over the years, but that was the thing. I wanted to make a contribution to nerddom. And that's how I did it, was through this website. And honestly, after that weekend, this was probably middle of July, because I think by the time I had that conversation with Dr. Vern, I just hung out with him that whole weekend. That was amazing. That I think the idea started churning, because I think I had decided, I had finalized the name Geek World Order and kind of where I was going with the site. By that point, that was it. I had solidified, I'd locked in, and by that point I went and got the hosting and the domain and I decided to WordPress, because I realized quickly that everything I could do in HTML was not going to be sufficient. And I'm glad I ended up going with WordPress, because that was the platform I needed, and I still use, and it scales perfectly with everything I do. And it's been able to help me adapt the website. Obviously, the content has evolved. I've done more original content. Obviously, I shared a lot of content. There were podcasts that a lot of the original content, stuff like Slacker the Man, Primetime Geek, Just a Couple of G's, those, there was definitely a network of stuff. I had a few people that I was posting their reviews, kind of, trading some exposure for them. And obviously things people came and went, their content morphed into other things. And then my content morphed into other things. It became more of, as the site got older, I got more into the part of creating my own original content, really keeping everything on my own brand. And I think that was a very important thing for me because I've always run under the principle of my rules. My show, my rules, that's it. I've never run ads on the site. I've never done a promotional deal. The only thing that comes even close to any sort of payment is press passes. That's been it for me. And just the fact that I'm still here doing this 16 years later is incredible to me because I know the site has become a part of my identity. It's a part of who I am. Shortly after that, I started that job, and then less than a year later, before the site's anniversary, I actually ended up leaving the job I was at that time and moving into a period where I was unemployed for a year and a half. So the first and second anniversary of the website, I was actually unemployed for both of those. And things eventually got better, got to do some other things, and obviously start getting press passes, and those will be other stories for other days, but that's where it started. It started at a geeky gathering at a music festival of all things, and I, to this day, honestly, I really haven't covered nerdcore, the geek music scene, in several years now. And that might be a topic for another video. That's not really something I want to get into right now. That's a whole separate topic. But the fact that we're here 16 years later and I'm really excited. I know the last couple years have been a little weird for me because I've gone in and done other things. I've had health issues the last couple years, so I know I've wanted to do some other things and kind of move in some different directions, but unfortunately, I just wasn't able to do that physically, financially. I've had some health issues, some job. I've, got laid off from my long-term for a job I'd had for 13 years last year. Then I recently just left the job I've got after that job to start a new job. So kind of getting things settled back in, but I think hopefully as things get settled and that situation calms down, obviously I want to stay healthy, but I want to do more of the content from, and my videos are good. I have a great system of doing my videos, of doing the twice a week, with the toy reviews, pretty much taking up the Tuesday slots. And then I kind of alternate between the food reviews or the convention vlogs, Disney videos on Fridays. And of course, as we go on, I want to expand. I want to do other forms of content. I want to do more long form content, video essays. I want to do more original. I want to do videos with a little more production value other than besides the just, stringing clips together for vlogs. So there are things I want to do. And I'm working through the logistics, some of those, kind of working on the plan. But I think as long as things settle out over the last year, I think we're going to be in a better place to do some more things, do some different things, and take the next step in evolution. Because obviously you've kind of got to, every so often you got to refresh yourself. You got to keep it fresh. You got to keep it fun. And I have a good system, but now I want to do other things. And that's where we're at. So that's been this video. Obviously the first year of, and just those first couple of years, there are some very interesting stories, and I might go back and tell some of those in video form when I need some Friday content. But yeah, to think that we're here 16 years later doing this still, this is incredible. It's still a one-man show. I do everything. I put everything together. And it's just kind of been that way. It's what works for me. But man, I have enjoyed the ride. Every year I really take a moment to reflect, think back on it. And the fact that we're still here from those early beginnings in 2010, to where we are now is just an absolute beautiful thing. I love it, and I'm looking forward to many more years of the site, and obviously doing more stuff here on YouTube and the other social platforms, really looking to expand the presence and to see where things evolve. But I think that'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to this story here. Thank you for being around. I know some of you watching this may have been around for the entire 16 years of the site. If you're just here recently from the last couple of years of doing more YouTube content, I appreciate you guys as well. You know, if you're an OG who's been around since the days when Geek World Order was literally just a website that I was doing as a passion project that has morphed into a piece of my identity. But thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for taking in the content, whether it's written or video, long form, short form, whatever. I appreciate you all. Love you guys. Live long and prosper. And I will absolutely see y'all in the next one.